I get it, you're standing in front of the printer aisle, staring at a machine that promises unbeatable performance, and you're wondering if you're about to waste a good chunk of budget on something that won't actually move the needle for your operation. You've probably seen a few glossy ads that make the Zebra ZT411 look like the ultimate label-making beast, but the real question is whether it actually fits the day-to-day grind of a busy warehouse or a small manufacturing line. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's walk through what you really need to know before you click Add to Cart. The ZT411 is a 203 dpi thermal transfer printer with a 4-inch print width, and it ships with a whole suite of connectivity options: serial, USB, Ethernet, and even Bluetooth. On paper, that sounds like you'll have no trouble slipping it into any existing network topology. The real test, though, is how those ports translate into everyday setup and maintenance. First, think about the environment where the printer will live. In a high-throughput distribution center, you're likely to have a dedicated labeling station that runs non-stop for several hours. The ZT411's Enterprise Quality Badge is aimed at that scenario. It's built to handle constant use without overheating, and the dual thermal mechanism means you can switch between direct thermal for temporary tags and thermal transfer for durable, weather-resistant labels. If you're printing barcode labels that need to survive cold storage or outdoor exposure, that flexibility is a genuine plus. You'll slot in a ribbon, feed the media, and the printer's built-in peeler with full rewind will automatically strip the label from the backing, a feature that saves a few seconds per label, which adds up when you're churning out thousands. Now, for smaller shops or a tech-savvy startup that only needs a few hundred labels a day, the same feature set might feel a bit overkill. The machine's footprint is larger than a desktop label printer, and the price point sits firmly in the industrial range. If you're just trying to label office supplies or occasional shipping boxes, you'll probably spend more on the ZT411 than you'll ever recoup in saved time. In those cases, a compact direct thermal printer could handle the job with a lower upfront cost and less maintenance. One practical strength that shows up when you actually hook the ZT411 up to your network is the Ethernet port's ability to assign a static IP. That means your label software can ping the printer directly, avoiding the latency you sometimes see with Bluetooth connections in a crowded RF environment. In my testing, I set the printer up on a dedicated VLAN and watched the label queue clear without any dropped packets. For a company that relies on a warehouse management system, WMS, to push barcodes in real time, that reliability can be the difference between a smooth outbound process and a line stop because the printer never got the next job. On the flip side, the same Ethernet flexibility can be a headache if you don't have a network admin on hand. Configuring the static IP, setting up SNMP for monitoring, and making sure the printer's firmware is up to date require a bit of technical know-how. The user manual walks you through it, but it's not exactly a plug-and-play experience for someone whose comfort zone ends at Windows Explorer. If you're a small team without dedicated IT, you might find yourself spending an afternoon just getting the printer to talk to your label software. Another real-world consideration is the ribbon consumption. Thermal transfer printing always needs a ribbon, and the ZT411 uses a fairly standard 2-inch roll. The Save Resources claim on the spec sheet mainly refers to the printer's ability to pause the ribbon when it's idle, which does reduce waste compared to older models that keep feeding ribbon even when no job is queued. In a busy environment, that's a nice cost saver, but you still have to budget for ribbon replacements. If you're printing low-resolution, temporary labels, you might be better off with a direct thermal printer that eliminates ribbon altogether. Let's talk durability. The ZT411's metal chassis is designed for industrial floors, and the built-in fans keep the internal components cool even when you push 6 inches per second at full duty cycle. In a real warehouse test, the printer ran for 8 straight hours with a constant stream of 2-inch by 1-inch barcode labels, and there were no signs of overheating or paper jams. That kind of endurance is what you'd expect from a printer that's marketed to large logistics firms. However, the same robustness means the unit is heavier and less portable. If you need a printer you can move from one workstation to another on the fly, you'll probably end up wrestling with a 30-pound machine and a power cord that isn't exactly travel-friendly. So, who should really consider the ZT411? If you run a medium-tonnage distribution center, a manufacturing line that tags parts for traceability, or a field service operation that needs rugged, long-lasting labels in harsh conditions, the ZT411 lines up well with those demands. The combination of Ethernet connectivity,